Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Chat with an Expert. It's January 17th, 2018. Happy New Year, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about how to get your content into Merlin and lots of different ways to do that. I'm excited to be able to show this to you. As usual, we'd like to make this short and sweet. It will be less than 30 minutes. I am recording the session. Please ask your questions in either the chat window or the question area of the GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll make sure I pause periodically to go take a look at those. The questions do not need to be related to today's topic, and of course we always like to have suggestions for future topics as well. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about lots of different ways to get your content from your local computer into Merlin. And of course, you can do it with the web upload form in the Merlin X web interface. You're probably familiar with that, and we'll talk about that briefly. You can copy files directly to your Merlin if your Merlin is on-premise. So that's something that you can do. You can FTP files to Merlin, to the MIO watched folders on the Merlin server. And you can use either FTP software, things like Fetch or FileZilla or Flow, or you can even use command line FTP from Windows computers. You can upload directly from Adobe Lightroom. I'm going to walk you through that because that's one of the things that I think is really cool. You can also upload directly from PhotoMechanic if you're using that. And if you're using our APIs, you can use those to be set up to upload to your Merlin as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about each of these things, and I'm going to actually show them to you. So using the web upload form, the advantage of the web upload form is that you can add metadata at the time of input. So you don't need to be using special software like PhotoMechanic or Photoshop or Bridge to add metadata. You can do it as part of the Merlin interface, and your admin user can control the metadata fields that are important to you, and you can use those to basically to set it up the way you want it to be to capture the metadata that you want. Also, the advantage of the web upload form is you can link content at the time of input. This is particularly useful if you need a model release or some sort of consent form to accompany your pictures, and you can upload that to Merlin and link it to the content that that form covers at the time of input. So that's really cool. And you can also add your content to one or more collections at the time of input. So if you're uploading content and you know you want it to be part of many different collections, you can actually control that at the time of input, and you don't have to come back and do that later. So those are some of the pluses of the web upload form. And the other thing about the web upload form is keep in mind an admin user can configure it so that different users and different types of users have a different web upload form. So you can manage that as well. All right, let's go on to the next item. You can actually copy files to watched folders. And this, again, is for on-premise Merlins only. But basically, you would set up the Merlin watched folders to be shared volumes, and we can help you do that. And then those would show up as a server folder on your desktop, and you'd be able to just drag and drop from your computer into those folders, and Merlin would process anything that gets dropped in there and add the items directly to Merlin. So I'm going to pause for a second just to see if I've got any questions. Let's see. Yes, I do. So let me take a look at these. Can we use, why can't I see the whole question? Can you use secure FTP? Yes, you can, but we need to know about it so that we can configure Merlin for that. The next question is, can we make a user, and again, I'm not seeing the question very well, Jan. Could you retype the question in the chat window? For some reason, it's truncating for me, and I'm not getting the entire question. So if you don't mind, try and use the chat window and not the question window. That might make it a little bit easier for me. And while I'm waiting for you to do that, I'm going to keep on going. Okay, So you can also FTP to Merlin, and Jan was asking about that. And yes, you can use secure FTP or SFTP. And here's some things you need to know if you're going to FTP or SFTP to Merlin. You need to know the address of your Merlin. Okay, that's the first thing. You also need to have a username and password, and there may be a separate FTP account, or it may be that your individual users were enabled to send from their normal Merlin accounts. And again, that's a configuration, and we can help you work through that. So if you have questions about setting that up, let us know. You also need to know the MIO watched folder to send content to. If you send it just to the Merlin FTP site, it's going to go into nowhere land and it will never get processed into your Merlin. You always need to make sure it goes into a watched folder on the server, and the default is called to Merlin, as I'm showing you here, and there may be other Merlin folders as well that you can send to. You may have it set up by department, or you may have it set up by wire service, or you may have it set up by photographer, and so you might be able to FTP specifically into those folders. So some cool things about FTP and SFTP is being able to save an FTP bookmark in an FTP application, and I'm going to show you how that might be done. You can also create an FTP droplet with certain FTP applications so that you can drag and drop content directly from your Merlin into the droplet. Now again, these are not Merlin specific software, and we don't support them directly, but we would be able to help you out with their configuration, and we can show you how to do that, and I'm going to walk through some of these. The droplet one is kind of cool because basically it just puts a little bookmark on your desktop and you can drag and drop to it. So also what's really cool is being able to FTP directly from PhotoMechanic, if you're familiar with that. Lots of photographers are using PhotoMechanic to browse data on their digital camera cards and add metadata to those images. And you can also FTP directly from Adobe Lightroom. And this is the new classic version of Lightroom that people, I know it's funny to say the new classic version of Lightroom, but some of you that use Lightroom, you probably know that Adobe had been offering it as a standalone application, and now they're offering it as two different versions of Lightroom. I have not tested the Creative Cloud version of Lightroom, but the classic version of Lightroom continues to work, and I'll show you that. In order to make this work, you do need to install the Adobe Lightroom SDK by clicking on this link and downloading the SDK, and pretty much that's all you have to do, because once you've installed the SDK, it all takes care of itself, okay? And it'll show up in Lightroom, and I'll show you how that works. The other way, the last way that you can upload content to Merlin is taking advantage of our Upload API. And if you'd like to have our Upload API documentation, let me know. We're happy to share it with our customers. It's a web service, and basically by creating the web service to take advantage of the API, or that calls the API, you'd be able to upload files and metadata directly to Merlin from other applications. Okay, so if you've got some application that you're working with and you want to upload content to Merlin from this external application, you can do that using our APIs. All right, and so before I go on and actually show you the demo, and because I am recording this and because you might be writing some things down, we do have a new support portal. This is the address, and starting in February, all new support tickets will be stored in this portal, and they will be accessible by you, the customer. So you'll be able to log in and see the status of any tickets that you've opened with our support team, okay? We're also going to make that home for a knowledge base as we start building it out, and so that'll be happening gradually throughout the year, but we will be adding content to that as well. And Jennifer Cox and her team will be sending you login credentials for the support portal. Some of you may have already received those credentials, so I know she's trying to make sure that the people that were part of this call get those credentials sooner rather than later. So finally, let's go take a look at everything that I talked about today. Okay, so we're going to start just with the Merlin web upload form. Okay, so we're going to escape out of our presentation, and we're going to let's see, I'm going to get rid of this and go down here and launch Merlin. So I'm already logged into Merlin, and I just want to remind everybody about the cool web upload form and some of the functionality in it. So here I'm looking at my Merlin toolbar. I do have upload privileges, and so I'm able to click on this, and you can see that I have fields that are made mandatory. And again, you can control the fields that live here. You control their behavior. So notice that I've got a pull down list here, and notice under my keywords field, it behaves as a type ahead. So if I start to type in SPO, it's going to autocomplete the things that start with the letters SP, and I can add multiple keywords from this type ahead pick list. As we talked about, one of the things that make the web upload form really interesting is that you can add content to a collection, one or more collections. So I'm going to click on that. And one of the things that's new in here is you can actually add a new collection from within the Add to Collection dialog. So if I'd like to create a new collection that's shared, or I'd like to create a new collection that's under Customer 2, I can do that by just clicking the little plus button in the lower left-hand corner, and it will create a new untitled collection that I can name. In this case, I'm going to call it Test Collection. Notice it's already pre-checked. And if I also wanted to add these pictures or this content, not just pictures, to another collection, I can do that by checking another box. I can set that, and it's reminding me that when I upload my content, it's going to add it to 2 collections. Okay? Keep in mind, this can be part of your templates. So if you're saving a template, you can save the access to the collections and also link the content together if it's related, or if you're trying to tie permission forms with the content. So that's easy to do by checking this box. And again, that can be part of your template. So to add a template or save a template, all I have to do is click Save, and then you'd be able to load the template anytime you want to do that. And of course, you can either drag and drop your files over here, or use the file browser to go out and navigate to your files and find them on your computer and add them to this list here. Okay, so that's a little bit of a reminder of how to use the web upload form. So there's some really cool things there. I really can't show you how to send content to a shared folder because my Merlin is remote. It's not on premise, so I'm not able to do that. So let me jump on to the next thing. But basically, it would show up as a folder on your desktop, and you'd be able to drag and drop to it. So that's pretty cool. So to FTP to Merlin, I really want this to go away. There we go. To FTP to Merlin, it's pretty easy, and there are lots of ways to do it. So I'm going to show you, I like to use this application called Fetch. And with Fetch, again, you would type in, I'm getting some errors here, you would type in your Merlin server name. So if I wanted to send content to my Demo 4 server, and then I could type in my username and my password. And of course, I can add this to my keychain if I want, so I don't have to retype this every time. And then this is important. You need to have an initial folder, okay? It's really, really important. And that's the To Merlin folder I described, or another folder that you've been made aware of, okay? So this is really, really important to have this. If you don't include this, it will FTP to the Merlin server, but will not end up in a watched folder, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. It's really important. So when I click Connect, it's going to take me to my Merlin server into the To Merlin folder, and I will have all of these folders. I will be able to drag and drop content directly into here, and it will get FTP'd to my Merlin server, and Merlin will automatically process it and import it. So that's pretty nice to know. Now I wanted to talk about Flow, which is another FTP software, okay? And you can see in this case, I've saved my demo server as a bookmark in Flow. And notice it pre-populates all of this information, and all I have to do is add my password. Okay, and it's going to log me into my Merlin server. So that's pretty easy. But what's really cool about Flow is it allows you, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect, it allows you to configure a screen, and down here in the Flow options, save the FTP server as a droplet. All right, and so I'm going to just say, yes, I'd like to save this as a droplet, and notice it's just added this as a little droplet on my desktop. And so all I have to do is drag and drop content to here, and it will ask me for my password, and then it will automatically upload the content to Merlin. So that's kind of a nice thing to do. It can speed up the process. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are any more questions for me. Ooh. What is FTP? Oh, that's a great question. So it stands for File Transfer Protocol, or Secure File Transfer Protocol if you're using SFTP, and it's a way to move data from one computer to another computer remotely that has been configured to accept content using this this metadata. I mean, using this protocol. So if I've got an FTP server on my Merlin server, and most Merlin servers are configured that way, you'll be able to use FTP software to basically move files from your local computer to your Merlin server. I want to use Merlin X only for upload, not searching or looking into content. Is that possible? It is, actually. So you would configure your Merlin to do that. When you are, what you'd want to do is hide content from people, and we can help you configure that. So if you'd like more information on how to set Merlin up for upload only, let us know. We can help you set that up. We actually ran a photo contest a few years ago off of one of our Merlin servers, and to enter the contest, people had to upload content to Merlin, and when they clicked the link, it logged them into Merlin without even requiring a password, and they were immediately presented with the upload form. That's one of the defaults, so it's very easy to configure that. So let us know if you'd like us to help you set that up. Let's see, let me come back here to Jan's question. Oh yes, so that's fine. So I think I've answered that one. What happens to metadata that's already set in the file if the file is uploaded via the upload form and someone set the metadata in the form? That's a great question, and it's configurable to how that behavior is. So Merlin can be set up to replace any existing metadata with metadata from the form. So if I add metadata in the form, it will overwrite the metadata that might be embedded in the file already. Or Merlin can be figured to append or add to the metadata that's already in the file. And that is always my preference, because I never like to lose metadata. And so it's very easy to set that up so that you can, and we can set that up for you. We have to do that for you, but it's easy for us to do. And you just tell us the behavior that you would like, and we can actually do it on a field-by-field basis. So it might be for some fields, especially fields that you've made mandatory in the web upload form, that it only uses the web upload form data, and that it, for non-mandatory fields, for example, it could be set to add to the data so that you keep all of the data that's there. Okay. I want this for the next Olympics. You've got it for the Olympics is in like a month away, Jan, or less than a month. So we can help you get this set up for whatever you want. And you're going to be real excited about what I'm going to show you next. My next question is, how can I put newly chosen photos on the very top of each collection if I don't want to remove the existing photos in the collection? That's a great question. Thank you. Right now, new photos get added to the bottom of the collection, and what we're working on is the ability, and we will see this in 2018, is the ability to rearrange content in your collections by dragging them around, so that you can set your own collection order, and it can and so you can take pictures that are at the bottom and drag them up to the top, so you can adjust the order of presentation. So that's a great question as well. Thanks. Okay, so what I want to do now, because don't want to get too derailed, is I want to show you PhotoMechanic, okay? And again, this is not our product. It's a product that lots of photographers in the field use to ingest the data, that's the word they use, off of their digital camera cards, and at the same time add metadata to it. And PhotoMechanic does a lot of cool stuff, and it's a great Swiss Army knife for adding metadata. And so what I've done here is I've told PhotoMechanic to look at this folder of pictures, okay? And if I go look inside of PhotoMechanic, you can see there's a place to add metadata, okay? So I've added metadata to this photo in PhotoMechanic, and you can see it just says iPhone photography by David Breslauer, and I could add my initials to the description writer, and so I can fill out all of these fields inside of PhotoMechanic. PhotoMechanic also also allows you to batch edit all of these files all at once if you want to do that as well, using what they call the IPTC stationary pad. But it's basically, again, a way to add metadata to all of these photos all at once, and it allows you to save templates. It's a really cool program. But if I wanted to upload these photos to Merlin, and in this case, let's just upload 2 of these photos. Under PhotoMechanic, I can pull down, they have a menu item under the File menu called FTP Photos As. So I'm just going to select that, and at the very, very top, you have all of these different uploaders that are built into PhotoMechanic. So you can send to Twitter, or you can send to Flickr, or you can send to Amazon S3. These are all ways to send to Merlin. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select FTP as my upload method, and it's pre-populating my connection, but I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to go to my connections, and you can create a new connection. You give it a name, okay, that's what shows up in the menu. You have to know your Merlin FTP server name, okay, or the address, okay, and that's this, and then your username and password for this, okay. Everything else you can save as the default, and by clicking OK, it saves it into this connection. So I've got all of these different FTP servers I've configured. And again, remember, it needs to know the destination path. So I'm going to send it to my MDemo4 server using the destination path to Merlin, and I'm going to click Send. All of these other things are optional things you can set up in the PhotoMechanic. They have nothing to do with Merlin per se, but it allows you to send files as JPEG or RAW if you've shot them in RAW. It allows you to adjust the quality if you want to do that. It allows you to apply the IPTC stationary pad, or even add a watermark as part of this, okay? And I'm just going to click Send. I'm not going to do any of those things. And notice it's giving me the status, and it's already copied both of those files successfully to my Merlin server, and there were no errors. Okay, so I can close this, and that's a little bit about using PhotoMechanic to upload by way of its built-in FTP. All right, I'm going to see if we have any more questions. How many photos are you upload at one time? That's, so someone's asking, how many photos are you allowed to upload at one time? We've had problems with smaller groups of just 10. And again, a lot of that depends upon your internet connectivity, and some FTP applications work better than others in restarting broken files. I've not had a problem uploading lots of files, so a lot of it will depend upon where you're working from and the internet connectivity from where you are to the MerlinOne server. So that's a variable issue. Okay, but thanks for that question. Okay, so I'm going to, now I'm going to switch to Lightroom. Okay, this might be like the undiscovered feature in Lightroom that people don't know about. Okay, so I'm in my Lightroom library, and I'm looking at a particular collection of content here. So I've got these 4 photos in Lightroom, and you can highlight one or all of them. It all depends on how you want. And as you know, in Lightroom, you can add metadata, right? So I've got my metadata here that I actually added in PhotoMechanic, but Lightroom is displaying it for me. It's got my contact information and the description or caption and my description writer and the sublocation and the city, state, and country. And all of this information is actually in Lightroom and is searchable in Lightroom. So Lightroom is like a small database that's appropriate for single users. It's not really good for an enterprise. But I've got these pictures, they've got their metadata, and again, to send them to Merlin, all I have to do is go to my Lightroom export menu. Now, the caveat here is in order to have FTP upload as one of the options in the export menu in Lightroom, you have to have downloaded the Lightroom SDK or Software Development Kit, okay? They don't charge for it, and it installs. You just download it and run the installer, and it will do everything it needs to do, and you'll be ready to go, okay? And so I've got FTP upload selected. And these are, again, just like PhotoMechanic has options of renaming the file or changing the file format, Lightroom has options as well. So I can choose to rename the file to some custom name if I want to, but I'm not going to rename it. Okay, and I can also change the format of the file. So maybe I want to convert it to a TIFF or a DNG, but I'm going to send it as a JPEG. And you can control the quality of the JPEG from here and what color space you want Lightroom to assign to those photos as you upload them. And you can resize the photos if you want to. So I could say resize to fit, or you can uncheck that and just send the original file. You can apply sharpening on output. This one is important. What metadata do you want to travel with the photo? I want all metadata typically, but you might want to change one of these other to one of these other options. But I'm going to leave it on all metadata. And again, notice it's trying to remove person information and location information, but I want to leave that in there. Some of our customers have content with that are, and they're sensitive about that. And so you could say, well, gee, I don't want that information to show up in Merlin, so you can actually hide it. You can watermark your content. And down here is where you tell it what server you want to go to. And so just like we did in PhotoMechanic, you give it the name of the server, you type in your username and your password. So I'm going to type in the username and password. And I'm going to store that. And I'm going to click OK. And I can even save this as a preset. So I can come over here, now that this is set up, I can add a preset here. And I'm just going to name it Demo 4 or MDemo 4 Merlin server. Okay. And I'm going to create my preset. And so it's right here. And so I could have presets for different servers I would like to FTP to. And now all I have to do is click Export. And you can see it's uploading the two photos via FTP. Okay, in the upper left-hand corner, it's the Lightroom telling me what's going on dialog. Okay, so I'm going to close out of Lightroom, and I'm going to close out of PhotoMechanic, and I'm going to go back to my Merlin. Let me log back in. And here are the two photos you watched me upload, okay? And here's the description that came directly out of PhotoMechanic and any other metadata, including my byline and copyright information, that all came directly out of PhotoMechanic, okay? So that's a little bit about that. So it is almost half past the hour, and we do like to keep this to the 30 minutes. Let me look and see if we've got any more questions to answer. We're using your uploader form. Okay, great. And if you need any help with that, let us know. We're happy to do that. And just for next month, for February, I'm really excited. We're going to do a preview of some of the things to look forward to in software updates for Merlin in 2018. So I've got some really great things that I want to share with you next month. So I look forward to talking to all of you then. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me or any of my colleagues know. I do thank you for your time, and have a good day, everybody.